There's just 1 minute to showtime.
The engines are on.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
When they wrote up the systems and the rule set that we use, did working people get to write a line? What class of men on pen and paper jotted down their clues, with capital the heart of their design? When 90 million want a thing, but some shareholders say no, which class of people get to have their way? The people read the fine print, say that this thing has got to go, and we'll start writing a new contract here today. Don't you know that hundreds will work and one man keeps the money? They don't think they gotta tell us why. When they say the new social contract, all the bosses will be gobsmacked and everyone will want a sign. Oh, yeah, everyone will want a sign.
Hello, cousins. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Social Contract. I am your host, Nicolette, and I'm here with my illustrious co-host, who is having a sip of his coffee, Mr. Mayor Jared. It's early.
What's going on?
Yeah, he's West Coast, and he had a late night last night after his world travels. So
tonight is not the crazy one. I'm sorry, last night was not the crazy one. It is tonight. Because, due to scheduling, I wasn't going to say no to doing this little show. So I landed last night, slept, woke up, I'm here today. But I'm driving from Phoenix to Reno tonight, overnight. So I go to work today, come back, hopefully get to Reno by noon tomorrow, and then we'll see how I'm really feeling then. That'll be the true test.
Wow. Yeah, well, like I always like to tell you guys, you're very lucky to have him. He's a busy man, and most people have to pay admission to get to hear him talk. So, or sing. So we'll try to keep things succinct this episode, which we rarely ever can manage to do.
It's great. I get to just go back and repack. Not go back. I'm still in my house, but I just get to repack. So it's like, hurry, throw everything in the laundry, get it back out, get it back in the bag, and let's leave again.
Yes. So, right. Yes, we're very happy to have you with us. So thank you very much, Mr. Jared. So. I'm sure that if you're watching this, you have been following the news, as have we. And there's not much else going on right now when we're about 3 weeks away from the election, presidential election, which, local ones too, which is lame and sucks. And everybody's tired of talking about it, tired of hearing about it. And we're kind of in a place now where that's all that's really going on. Things are really divided at this point between what's going on in our election and what's going on with Israel's bullshit. So
we're less than a month away, isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
We got Halloween, and then the real scary shit starts.
Yeah, that's the real. Yeah, there's always the talk of the October surprise happening, like some big thing. But that I've always seemed to notice there isn't one. What is nothing ever happens. There's never any big suddenly we're gonna give you everything you want. Here's also free candy and weed. Yay! That shit doesn't happen. So
I don't remember if it was October or not, but I guess that'd be like the pee dossier with Trump, where they were saying that he was in Russia getting peed on by hookers or peeing on hookers. I don't remember which. And then the was it the her emails? But I feel like the emails thing was going for a long time before October.
Yeah, that seemed to be a while, and going on for a while, and especially afterwards when everybody's like, her emails. Yeah, that was the problem. I'm going to choke on my own spit here for a second. Excuse me.
I have many problems with Hillary Clinton that have nothing to do with her emails. The fact that it was boiled down to as if that she was just some it's just your grandma who doesn't know how to deal with emails. No, she had a private email server in her house so she could do bastard things, so she could be fucking up Haiti without telling us about it. She could be doing random weird things with the Clinton Foundation. It's like not every single email sent and received by the server is going to like contain a decapitated head or something. But yeah, if you're going to run for president, maybe you shouldn't have your secret email server where you do your shadow business.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that definitely was the problem. But it's like, I saw her. I didn't watch the interview but I saw, like, the kind of some of the transcript of something she did the other day, and she was like, I'm assisting Kamala on helping her defeat Trump. It's like, bitch, you didn't defeat Trump. What are you talking about? So this is,
You're the only one.
No.
The only one that lost to him.
Yeah, this was a layup, and you couldn't have lost harder. Like, this is, like, of every loss of everything that you've ever done in your career, which has resulted in loss, which is, like, all of it, like, that was the easiest thing to win, and it was a complete mess. But, the thing that she is helping doing in this process is, let's hop in the time machine here. Kamala Harris is following the exact same playbook in courting the right instead of addressing all of the issues that people actually want. And you don't have to call yourself a leftist or a socialist or a communist to want a paycheck that is decent, to want to be able to afford food and utilities and have decent roads and schools. Like that there's no political precedent for that. That is what we should be getting from our taxes, from the things that we do for just by way of being here, by being Americans, whether you are a legal citizen or you just live here. Like, that should be the benefit. We should be getting benefited to be here and to stay here. And we are absolutely not, because we are too busy spending all of our money on blowing up children. So that's where things are right now. And that's why things are so heated in this particular situation. And I have never seen in my voting history, which is a long time at this point, but I've never seen people so divided with an election. It's usually, it's you're red, you're blue, that's all. You go, you do the thing, and it's the lesser evil, it's the lesser evil. And I'm here. There's a lot of like, fuck the lesser evil, conversation going on right now, because people are waking up to the idea that it's like, well, we can't even have decent lives, but we can spend all of our money enriching the top 1% of people through killing other less fortunate people. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. No matter.
I wish I had this video. I wish I had the whole clip, because they put it so well. But they keep repeating the line where it's like, the lesser evil of today is worse than the greater evil of yesterday. And then they go down a time of like where it was like Reagan and George W. and all these people drew at least. It's what you get to see on the news, so you don't know what's actually going on. But they visibly were like, Israel, you did some psycho shit, so now you need to knock that off, or we're not going to send you any more weapons. And then they stop for like 3-4 years, and then it keeps going up again. But like, we aren't even doing that today. And then she repeats the line like, the lesser evil of today is worse than the greater evil of yesterday. Without saying it, it's like, look, neither candidate today is even going to go that far, it looks like. Heck, our current president isn't even going that far. No one is saying words like arms embargo or or something like that.
People. And, there's been some quotations also about from when Reagan was in office, about that he sort of instituted, apparently, calling the conflict between Israel and what they were doing to Palestine in the middle 80s as a Holocaust, quote unquote, and demanded it be stopped. And they're to the right of Reagan. And Reagan was an actual demon from hell. So there is no excuse for what's going on right now. And then we talked about this a lot. They just do shit out in the open now. Like, they don't promise you anything. They don't tell you anything. They barely even placate you. There's been this big dust up recently. And for those of you who don't know, the left essentially and especially it's comprised of and essentially started by the most disenfranchised people, which are generally people of color, who have spent their entire lives as political fodder, have always been pandered to and never been helped to do anything, or just a bargaining chip. And they've taken heat from a lot of white leftists, quote unquote, who now are Kamala Harris sycophants, and so they're used to it. You know, they're used to taking all the blame for everything and saying you're the reason that this person Trump won, or you didn't vote, you never vote, and you're the reason. Don't complain and all this, that, and the other. So they're used to taking all of this this heat for all of this stuff, and there was all of this nonsense going on. Now, I don't want to get into, there's a lot of commentators that are more qualified to talk about it than myself. But just to hit the high point here, they're getting a lot of liberal shaming is coming from them, or coming to them, because they didn't buy into Barack Obama's placating of, you got to vote or whatever, and you guys didn't do this and that, and then this lukewarm whole thing that she came out with, which was, you need business loans and crypto. And it's like, what are you talking about, business loans and crypto? Like, they're still disenfranchised as, people, so minorities are still they're probably statistically the least likely to own businesses. And we're not talking about, grants. We're not talking about have some money for your project. We're talking about loans, and loans are predatory, and we all know it. So therefore, we're already saying right up front, it's going to not benefit you. We're going to charge you interest. It doesn't matter what amount of interest it is that you're going to get charged, but they're going to get something out of it, and that's the whole issue. And so it's like we're talking about something that's practically non-existent in terms of statistics, and then trying to say, oh, it's so exciting because you're going to get something that then we benefit from anyways. And just as a quick example, I've heard it on my local news here. There's a restaurant in town that is minority owned, started, and it's a soul kitchen or soul food restaurant. And it's pretty much one of the only ones, and probably the best known one, been around a long time. They survived the pandemic, but they got PPP loans, whatever the hell it was. But they got the loans, and now they're saying that they're probably going to have to fold because the gouging of the prices of everything, plus trying to pay these loans back. Like, we know that there are billionaires out there that took loans that nobody's asking them to pay back, but here is like the people struggling at the lowest end of the capital gains system, who of course are being made to pay their loans back. And now at this time, they can't even afford to be in business anymore. So they were taken advantage of then. And now Barack Obama's out there trying to say, let us take advantage of you again. She's trying to say it, which, and then what good is crypto going to do anybody? It's horseshit. So what do we have here? What are we looking at?
So you talk about, Obama came out, and the tone is always like, hey, you guys are fucking up. You need to get in line. It's always this, like, scolding, like it's your dad coming down, like, do the right thing. It's like, geez, how little respect for people's intelligence do you have?
Yeah,
This is the Kamala Harris. This is the Kamala Harris, okay, I'll read their headline, I guess, because this is like, they produced this image, the Harris Waltz campaign. Kamala Harris will create an opportunity agenda for black men. Let us ignore that she's been the vice president for 4 years, and that we are less than a month away from the election. And I think this came out this week, like definitely within the last 7 days. We got provide this. I'm reading this now for the third time. It makes sense. I didn't understand what the numbers were here. Like, provide 1 million loans. I thought it was like $1 million loans. Provide 1 million loans that are fully forgivable, up to $20,000 for black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. Support education training and mentorship programs that lead to good paying jobs for, like, I don't know what that one really means. It's like, I guess, because you can take any dollar that goes towards any educational institution and say that you did that. We supported education training. Protect cryptocurrency investments so black men who make them know their money is safe. So if you're Asian and you have crypto, does it not count?
Right.
Like, is it not? They're trying to do the same thing where, like, your bank money is insured and your stock things are, like, protected. I think they're just trying to be like, okay, let's just make crypto like a normal stock, and we're gonna say it's for black people.
Right.
Like,
somehow
what
act
about
like
black women
you're
who have
doing it
crypto?
for you. Like, no, you're not.
I understand. This is a thing that some certain rich people want. Remember, it's becoming more and more obvious where it's like the tech billionaires really want Harris and the industry billionaires really want Trump. It's not quite that clean of a dividing line, but why would the Harris campaign be like...
The last one? I just put eyes on the last point.
Oh, I can't believe you didn't mention it.
What is this?
I know.
This is the most racist shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, I'm fucking for this. but I cannot believe that they put this in words directed at black men. What the fuck?
Our plan for black people is, here's some weed, shut up and vote for us.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that was one of them. And I was going to complain about the $20,000 thing. Like, you can't do shit with $20,000 starting a business. That would go to nothing, and they know that. But then I focused in on what is marijuana? Oh my God!
$20,000 and some weed, vote for me. Also, it's not... Have they not been promising legal marijuana for like 16 years at this point?
Oh yeah, and then they had to keep doing it. We have to form committees. We have to do more means testing. We have to think about this. We have to look at the numbers. Like, okay, I'm for legalizing, first of all, it's cannabis. Marijuana is a pejorative term that is meant to, it's racist in itself, okay? So they're using racist terminology. And they specifically directed this at black men and black Americans, like opportunities to work into that field or whatever, because they are saying, oh, because we know how you blacks love your weed. Like, what in the hell is that? That is insane.
They love crypto and weed. That's what the Harris campaign has told me.
Yeah, I fully support that. It's obviously been like a something that they should have done a million years ago, and that should be the October surprise. To be perfectly honest, don't do it when you get into office.
Do it
now and say,
legalize it and say, hey, look at me.
Shut a lot of people up. Like, a lot of people would just be like, fine, and stop like bitching about everything if they were able to, not go to jail for having a joint in their pocket in these red states that just like where the cops are allowed to just beat the shit out of you for no reason because you've got weed on you, and ruin your fucking life. So I live in one. I know
your agenda and do it.
Yeah, no,
they have
should
a whole
be
list of things
right now. And that is absolutely insane. That is so out of touch and psychotic, to be honest. Like, if Trump said that, the black jobs thing, like if everybody
right?
What if Trump was like, we're going to give our blacks the weed? Like everybody would go insane, right? Like, everybody would lose their shit and be like, he's got dementia. He's out of his mind. He's so racist. Oh my God. But because a woman of color says it, it's okay? Like, that's psycho. That's completely psycho.
It's amazing, right?
Hey, are you time traveler too? Thanks for watching. We appreciate your comments. And anybody else who jumps in that or is watching at home and doesn't want to chat, that's cool too. We're just kind of, I don't know. I wasn't expecting to see that. I didn't know that was part of the official agenda of items. But that is wow, like really, really wow, because that should have been obviously something on the docket forever anyways. There's no reason that there should not be national legalization and decriminalization instead of all these stupid piecemeal things. But that they promised this. Okay, let's unpack this a little bit. They say they're going to do that. That's part of the agenda. It's in writing from them. So they get elected. January 1 comes. You're not going to do it. They're not going to do it just exactly the same ways it hasn't been done for all the time that it's been illegal. So, and I think it's been fully since 1975. I think it was under Nixon, of course.
They give us tiny crumbs of crumbs and then don't even actually execute. Like, they don't even make promises anymore that I can help me believe these lies. I was told, just to back off, like, isn't it really racist to say, hey, we're going to help out black people by giving them cryptocurrency protections and weed? I was told yesterday by somebody, like a real person, not a bot, is a person I met in real life. It just makes me sad, where it's like, I couldn't bring myself to vote for Kamala Harris because I don't believe women. And I'm like, I was just telling you how if I'm voting for anybody, it's going to be this woman named Jill. Like, I don't understand, like, if you're a Jill... I'm not even a big Jill Steiner Green supporter necessarily. Just right now, that seems to be the thing that is making the Democrats the angriest.
Right.
So I might do it, just to be like, ha, wouldn't it be funny if Jill has this, like, if Jill gets 10% of the vote in Arizona and then Kamala loses by 9.9%, like, that would be amazing. I would love to be part of the blamed reason that the genocide candidate, that one of the two genocide candidates, but the one currently doing the genocide, that she didn't, like, get reelected or rewarded for doing these horrible things, completely ignoring her voter base, pulling out, hey, black dudes will give you weed, like, 20 days before the election, as if it, like, means anything to anybody. Right. Wouldn't that be great? But I'm being told... Jill Stein voters are called sexist, and I just don't... What? Like, is it just just pure robot NPC? Like, you just have a recited line you're supposed to say? Because if it's Bernie Sanders and okay, at least he's a guy, it still makes no sense to be like, oh, Bernie, you're sexist, and a Bernie bro if you vote for him. But we're literally talking about a third party candidate who's a lady and her running mate is like a black revolutionary. Like, what are we? Huh? What demographics are we not hitting? We need.
Right, and that's the thing about it too. It's like I'm in Indiana, and they would not allow her to be on the ballot, but she is on the ballot in most other states, and enough technically to win enough delegates if she were to get enough votes to win the election, and ultimately it would allow the Green Party, whether they're your thing or not necessarily, but they would allow the Green Party more access to future elections and being on ballots in the future. And it's like, it's
federal funding.
Like, great. But, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We're in a bad spot right now. And it's like where you've got two Hitlers and somebody else in most states. Like I would have voted for her if I could have. And I hope that a lot of other people do. If you see what's going on in Michigan right now, where there is a huge faction of Arab Americans, just generally, not speaking politically, but like there's a very large population of Arab Americans in Michigan, and
we did some wars, and there were refugees, and then we sent them to Michigan, and now we're like, God damn it, there's all these Muslims in Michigan. It's like, well,
what happened
how
here?
did they get there?
The numbers are all messed up. Where are the whites in Michigan?
Stop blowing up countries, and they'll stop having to come here.
Right, exactly. Like let them live and let live, for Christ's sake.
If Iraq was nice, they would love to.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. She's leading significantly. And if Kamala loses, who's going to take the heat for that? Another minority. So it's like that's always the situation that we come into. And then, let's take this whole umbrella of bullshit that we're talking about here right now. Not just the minority stuff, but everything. What do liberals want? What the hell do they want? Like, I can't get over it. I realize a lot of the really extremism is coming from bots and trolls and stuff like that, and operatives, meant to turn the tide, to be like, you're not. There was something going around not long ago or a couple days ago that was like, you're not a bad leftist if you want Kamala Harris to win. Correct, because you're not one at all. So the fact of the matter is we're going right back to that, thing that lost Hillary the election. And I know there was a pretty significant amount of sexism and just personal hatred for her that lost the election. But I also know there were a lot of people, myself included, who felt, backed into a corner and like we didn't have any other alternative but to vote for her.
Yeah, I voted for Hillary, and I'm still embarrassed about it.
And actually, when she and Bernie were running against each other in the primary, that was the first primary I had ever voted in. I was inspired by Bernie enough to go out and vote in a primary, and then obviously we know how that all went. But the fact of the matter is her whole thing was courting the right, leaning into austerity, ignoring what people wanted, and we're always in conflict. But nothing was going on at that time as serious as what's going on with the Israel terror campaign here in the Middle East, and the tensions between Iran and everyone, and then the fanning the flames of tension between Russia and
there was no Ukraine
China.
war yet. We only kind of talked about Taiwan sometimes. It wasn't quite as in our face as right now.
If you take now and compare it to then, like, things were basically a cakewalk back then. It's not like things got better. Things have gotten significantly worse across the board. And even back then, they were kind of piecemeal offering some things. But when Trump was saying he was going to build the wall and they were going to make Mexico pay for it, we're going to kick out all the immigrants and shithole country and grab it by the pussy and all this, that, the other.
Notice, he didn't do that either. He didn't really finish building the wall. Mexico sure as fuck didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
He makes a bunch of nonsense promises that are never happening also.
Yeah, he didn't get to do any of the stuff that he said he was going to do. Now, granted, I think, if we're going to do our armchair quarterback here on this, had COVID not happened on, during his presidency, I think probably would have gotten to a lot more shitty stuff, right? Like all he really wanted to do was rake in money and punish his enemies. That was basically it. That's always been his agenda.
New set of tax breaks. I remember just every time there's a president, there's a new set of tax breaks. But he did a pretty big one. Well, rich people tax breaks. You know what I mean?
Right. And so there's a lot to think about. But it's like, okay, like literally, she is being like, they're touting the fact that like, oh, it's so exciting how many former Republican cabinet members and over 200 former Republican operatives, cabinets, what the hell ever, are now supporting her. And it's like, how is this remotely a good thing, first of all? And then we get to, okay, now Liz and Dick Cheney are supporting her. Like, this is bad news, guys. This is real fucking bad news. And they just are sitting there going on and on about it like this is a good thing. Liberals are doing this. And it's like, I, at this point, can't tell the difference between like a bot or a operative, because regular people are doing this. Like, like, okay, it's no secret that I love cats, right? So of course I do. So I follow a lot of just cats on, like, that I want to see pictures and videos of and stuff. And it's like these accounts have turned into, like, you went from like being a normal person to now being like a complete psychopath, that you are literally supporting things that Trump was getting heat for 4 years ago, but now that your team says it's okay. Like, these things are psychotic. And we get to what happened today or yesterday. And let me see. I don't have the name of the guy in front of me. I'll pull this up real quick.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, and it's funny because we technically already talked about this guy.
Yeah, we have been talking about
Mickey.
the Heritage Foundation and all this horse shit forever, because we have said multiple times on the show, if you're a minority or a woman or LGBTQIA+, or that you've it's just all these different minority groups or just different people that aren't like the straight white men of America, then you have been a bargaining piece politically before you were even born. You're if you're a woman, then your body is not your own, and they're allowed to have legislation about that. You're allowed, they're allowed to decide if you're a gay person, if you're allowed to adopt children or get married. So that people have been holding on to using you as a political volleyball for longer than you've even been alive, for the most part.
It's like the Green New Deal, but bad.
Yes, and so exactly
a bunch of shit that's never gonna happen, but it's not useful as like a toy, to a shiny object to hold up.
Yeah, well, also the Green New Deal never happened, so that's
what I mean.
That's
shiny
it's the
object.
same thing. Yeah, it's the exact same thing. So we get this whole big, and this is coming from like Kamala headquarters, kind of like, oh shit, this is a win for her. And the tweet says, former GOP Congressman Mickey Edwards has endorsed Kamala Harris for president, a former leader of the Heritage Foundation and American Conservative Union. This is a big win for Harris. It says, retweet in capital letters to thank Edwards for putting country over party. That's not what that is. That's not. This is, so that is just, insanity that we're talking about, because, okay, so we're going through this whole, it's been basically this whole year, we're sitting here, where the liberals are like, Project 2025 is they're going to come for your uterus, and they're going to kill all the immigrants, and they're going to take the politics, and they're going to make sure that they only hire other Republicans to believe what they do, and they're going to mess up the government. Dude, that shit's going on already, has been going on this whole time. It's all total bullshit. But now suddenly, one of the guys who helped make this whole shit up, all this, pants wetting that's been going on by liberals all this time, like he endorses her with his values, who's doing the thing that you're saying is bad and scary, endorses your shit, and that's good.
I'm waiting for Karl Rove. Karl Rove has not fully endorsed Kamala Harris, but he is like on Fox News talking like, Tim Walz could probably do this. Tim seems like a nice guy. Like he's like softening.
Yeah, he's kind of. I think he's waiting to hear what he'll get. It's sort of it's what RFK Jr. did, where he's like, I'll drop out of the race. Who's gonna make me a deal, right? Like, who's gonna put me on the cabinet? It's the same thing.
God, I forgot. I completely forgot that RFK just like joined the Trump campaign. That's so weird because I'm just so used to him being this other guy floating around there.
Right?
Like, oh yeah, RFK.
Yeah, and he was still on some ballots for some people, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah, because you can't just like pull yourself off. I don't know. It's
right.
We learn more about our wacky election system every election.
Yeah, So the whole idea here, I think, is that's just so psycho. And I honestly don't have an answer for this question. Is what do liberals want? Like, what do you want? Like, okay, if Heritage Foundation was on the board, or I'm sorry, Project 2025, created by Heritage Foundation, was on the board in 2016 or 2020, it would have made a lot more sense. And I think you would have got, at that time, with that climate, a lot more people behind Hillary that maybe weren't, and a lot more people behind Biden that weren't. And but now the lines are so blurred. It's like people who are not political are starting to kind of like notice. Like everybody knows people in their life who just are completely a blank out when it comes to politics. They don't care. They're not interested. It's not because they're too busy. They just don't care. They just straight up don't care. We obviously have people in the world who are so marginalized and so overworked and so, under supported that they can't think about it, that they don't have time to think about it because they're so worried about providing for their kids or, keep the lights on. But I'm talking about just regular people who work and do whatever and hang out and have a good time and they're happy with their paycheck and their life is good and they just don't think about it. But now I'm starting to see people in that group kind of like, I mean, they're still going to vote for her, obviously, but they're starting to question it. And I don't remember anybody ever really questioning things in previous elections, even when they were as obnoxious as they were prior to this. And it's been bad. I look at it like sort of that scene in WALL-E where you see like the line of pictures of Succession of how like they just get like worse and worse and worse, like the leader of the spaceship that everybody lives in when they evacuate Earth. And then you finally get to the current captain, and he can barely read. That's the thing, because the computer controls everything, and it's like that movie is so weirdly like quotable and apt in these situations. like of all the movies, right? It's WALL-E. But like they get to the guy who can barely even read, he's doing instruction manual,
Manuel.
And they don't wear shoes. Like they just sit around on their little things and drink soda. And then they have to become self-aware. But my point is like that feels like where we are now. We have like the most inept assholes that we have ever had. Because don't forget, just a few months ago, Kamala Harris was this person that was only ever photographed walking places. And when she would get behind a podium, or in an interview, she'd just laugh weird and say word salad shit. And everybody was like, this woman is insane. And then they immediately were like, oh my God, brat, amazing, shoes, cute clothes, I love her. And it's like, people from other countries are doing it. And it's like, am I in the fucking Twilight Zone? Like, what the hell is this? And I know I'm not the only one that feels this about it, but I just can't make sense of it. I keep trying. I am cherry picking. I realize that when I'm making my point here, but it's because I don't know what's going on. I cannot understand what all of this is, because people do seem to be really, really motivatingly bothered by what's going on in Palestine and in Lebanon and Jordan and all this, the surrounding areas. That we've been down this road before. A lot of people have served in the military, in the 90s and the aughts and, Afghanistan and stuff like this, and then Desert Storm before that. And they've got kids and grandkids now, so they remember stupid, pointless wars. Going all the way back to Vietnam. A lot of those people are still alive. Older, but alive. And they realized how bad and pointless Vietnam was. None of our, it was just a lot like what's going on now, just like puppets, pulling puppet strings. Like no real gains to be made, no real purpose for America to be involved other than to just kind of show up and dick swing. But that's where we are in this situation, and it's been pointless war after pointless war after pointless war after pointless war, ad nauseum. And I think that might have something to do with it at this point, where people are just fed up with it, plus living conditions here being so bad. And maybe, like, really, you don't have to equate our living conditions being bad with all of this money being spent on war. There's plenty to go around. The coffers are deep. We're still operating on slavery money. The coffers are deep. So this is essentially the money. The bigger picture is the money that is going to Ukraine and the money that is going to Israel and the weaponry that is going to Israel. More so Israel than Ukraine, because that kind of was a bust. That the way that they were just stealing and pawning things. Like that didn't work out quite as well as I think America hoped it would, and it kind of got away from that. And it was like, all right, Israel, we'll invest. It's an investment. It's a loan. We're doing this because we meaning the government. The government of America expects a return, a valuable return on supporting Israel in this, and basically clear cutting the ground and laying waste to everything that's in the way. Because what do we have? We have oil and gas opportunities. We have new living opportunities. We can expand the control of the United States and influence in that region that's always unstable. And what do we really want to do? Knock Iran down a few pegs. That's where a lot of that comes from as well. So this is an investment in what the American government sees as its future. Not only are people obviously the upper echelon and these politicians who have been being paid off, just look at the IPAC money that they receive. Kamala Harris has received upwards of $5 million. Trump around $1 million. If I was Trump, I'd be like, hey, like, why don't you give me some more of this money? And I swear I will help you annihilate everything and everyone in the region. Make you guys king shit at Turd Mountain. But the fact of it is that there is more to this. It's not just generosity. It's not like we as the government and the people who support it really believe that Palestinians are a threat and that Hamas is a really big threat to America and Hezbollah and all this, that, and the other. No, we know that it's not a thing. America is fully abreast of the fact that this is not a situation, it is not a threat, it is not a problem. But if they can make it look that way, and they're doing a very bad job of it, I would say, but they can make it, try and skew results of polls and what people think and make you think that other people think this is okay and that we should be giving this money and yada, yada, yada. They can cover themselves for hiding the fact that this is essentially a loan, that they were going to want what, if Israel succeeds in its great plan, in its greater Israel situation, that's us. We are, you can call it what you want to call it, but that becomes essentially unofficial American territory run by Americans. Because who populates Israel as it is? Expat Americans. People from fucking New Jersey, going out there and just stealing shit, straight up stealing shit. So, so people, let me bring it around town here. People are waking up to this, but not necessarily understanding the full picture. But they don't have to, as long as they're tired of seeing loose baby faces and people actually being burned to death, and as we saw this week. And there's a lot of this America Engie, Biden Engie. He said, no, don't do it. That's horseshit. That's all fucking theater. That's not happening. Like, he's not angry. He's just angry. If anything, if there was literally any word exchange between himself and Netanyahu, it was like, you're not making a very good show of this. Get the job done faster, really fucking quickly, because this is a mess. And you're pulling us down, and it's making us look bad. And people who normally wouldn't give a shit and would just go on not giving a shit are starting to wake up to this idea that they don't love this. So, and it would have been so, as we were talking, going back a little earlier in the hour, had they just legalized weed and maybe give some stimulus money out coming up, they would have won over so many more people. If they would have made up some lies about, we're going to give you education and we're going to do free education and we're going to do healthcare, universal healthcare, and we're going to, we're going to do credit loan reform and cap off the interest rates and stop predatory lending, blah, 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 blah. They could have said any of this stuff to sway people into saying, okay, well, they're probably going to do that. But they haven't even bothered. And if they can't even be bothered to lie to you, you know what you're going to be getting in these next 4 years. And eventually it's going to be too cataclysmic to come back from. We're heading, straight into Mad Max. We're heading straight into the escape from New York, Snake Plissken future. Like, this is like, there's going to be them and all the other people, because it's going to be like illegal to be homeless, and then it's going to be where you are completely unable to afford to do anything but rent homes and cars, and jobs are going to be terrible because automation and AI are not going to be regulated. The corporations that are employing it are going to make sure that their pet politicians are going to keep kicking the can down the road and not doing anything about it. And it is possible to get things done on the local level, which is why local elections tend to be more important than national elections. But before I shut up here for a second, give Jared a chance to get some words in, I want to point out none of this actually even matters because, and we know this, of the Electoral College. So it doesn't make any difference. And that's where we are at this stage. So that's all that's the long and short of things. You could feel like you're involved in it. You could tell yourself you're involved in it. You could abstain from it, but ultimately nothing is going to matter. So what have you to say about that, Mayor?
Well, I wanted to bring up this actually has to do with several of the things that we were talking about, kind of all of them. You've probably heard about the uncommitted movement, or people who were saying, hey, we don't like Harris specifically because of the Gaza genocide and we don't want to vote for her. So in the primaries, they were voting uncommitted. Originally for Joe Biden, they were voting uncommitted. And then they got moved up, slid over to the Harris campaign. And kind of predicted, this is another thing to point out the difference between, like, quote, official organization type things and just general unaffiliated people. Black Lives Matter is a fantastic example of this. As a slogan, as a sentiment, obviously I agree with the sentence Black Lives Matter. The organization that took those three letters and has, like, CEOs and CFOs and, financial backers, etc. If you don't know, pretty much all of the original Black Lives Matter like leadership from the original protests, they all got kicked out by the people who currently benefit a lot from that organization. The lady at the top owns multiple houses, gets millions of dollars, Uncommitted, people who don't like the genocide, so they don't want to vote for Harris, and we're voting uncommitted. There are a bunch of people, just regular citizens, who think that, and then there is the official organization that is the uncommitted movement. And guess what? They're all a bunch of Democrats, and they have de facto endorsed Harris. Like, they can't bring themselves, like, there is no real red line of, hey, you've done this unforgivable thing. We, as punishment, are not going to vote for you because we don't like the thing you did so much. We can't do that, though. You still have to pretend that, like, you can just smell the lesser evilism just, like, permeating this whole situation. Uncommitted movement doesn't endorse Harris, but asks supporters to vote against Trump. This is from, like, almost a month ago. But, see him hanging out in front of the convention. This is in Chicago at the United Center. The leaders of the uncommitted movement, like, the idea that it has leaders is just weird. It's like, who voted for you guys? Is there an elected council of uncommitted people? Which grew out of Democratic opposition to President Biden's policy towards Israel and Gaza, will not endorse Vice President Harris for president, but urge voters to vote against former President Donald Trump and avoid third-party candidates. So what does that mean? If they say don't vote for third party but vote against Trump, what is that? Like, we don't endorse Harris, but if you don't vote for Harris, Harris' unwillingness, is a quote now, Harris' unwillingness to shift on unconditional weapons policy or to even make a clear campaign statement in support of upholding existing U.S. and international human rights law has made it impossible for us to endorse her. But we think you should only vote for candidates that are not anyone except for her. Organizers of the uncommitted national movement said in a statement, at this time, our movement, 1, cannot endorse President Harris, 2, opposes Donald Trump presidency, whose agenda includes plans to accelerate the killing in Gaza. See, lesser evilism. I know he would do the genocide worse.
Yeah, right?
Like, he would be an even worse genocider. No genocide is not an option. Alright, while intensifying the suppression of anti-war organizing, dude, who was beating up kids on Columbia campus? Was it Trump? Did Trump sneak in and become president secretly for the last year? Alright, and is not recommending a third-party vote in the presidential election, especially as third-party votes in key swing states could help inadvertently deliver a vote for Stein is a vote for Trump. God, I fucking hate these people. Could inadvertently deliver a Trump presidency given our country's broken electoral college system, the statement continued. So, I mean, there you go. The uncommitted movement grew out of the Listen to Michigan campaign. Ahead of that state's February presidential primary, its goal was to send a message to Biden that he needed to do more, and that message is loud and clear. You don't have to do anything, and we will still tell people to go vote for you. Or should I say, vote, but don't vote for anyone except for this candidate, but we didn't say vote Harris specifically. Haha, we're not betraying the whole idea of what we were doing here. The key demands are for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. I'm cursing way too much today, but mother effer, if tomorrow Harris gets out there and says, I'm on frickin' speakerphone with Bibi right now, listen to this, and she's like, knock it off or the weapons are gone, and then he doesn't knock it off, the next day the weapons actually are gone, I'll vote for Harris, I'll go door to door. I know it's really late in campaign season, I'll start knocking on doors if she actually, or I know it's Biden. Biden's the president right now, right? The guy who doesn't know his own name. He's definitely the president. And if she can convince him to do that, great. I will vote for her. I'll tell everyone I know to vote for her. I'll be like, she is a person that stands on principle, opposes just bombing random civilians in the Al-Aqsa hospital that's already been destroyed. We may or may not have time to talk about that. But I would have something to point to as a reason other than her name is not Donald J. Trump, yet she has identical policy.
It's such an insane mess that they can be like identical and they don't even offer you even a lot. You know.
How are you a different candidate? Explain to me how you are different in a way that I like, not, oh, I'm different because I will pull more Republicans into my cabinet. That's a thing she said this week. How does that make you different than voting for the if I want Republicans, there's a guy. He has an R in front of his name. I can vote for him.
Exactly. And I don't know anybody who's like, I just don't know who to pick. You know, and that's like, I would do this, but not, but then I'm thinking maybe because that's the situation they're in. Like, lay their policies out with, what few they've shared. I know Trump is kind of fucking up here lately. He's kind of like bumbling around a little bit. But it's like, if you got really conspiratorial about it, and my mind has gone here, it almost seems like, I've seen this happen in local elections where the person is running, but they don't really want to win. So they're just like, oh, well, it wasn't my fault we lost. You guys just didn't vote hard enough. Wah, wah. So it's almost as if that he's kind of doing this thing that's like, well, I can go back to just being like a guy who makes money and fucks around. I don't know. It's crazy. Crazy to me because they've got policies. What policies they've given, and he's not even bothering to make up lies. He's done that before. I'm not saying he doesn't lie. I'm saying like he promises, big promises. Let me say it that way. Like he's not even bothering to do it. And I don't know if they're, they must be getting advised by their think tanks, by their, statisticians and stuff that do all this kind of work. That like you don't have to tell anybody anything. You don't have to say shit. They're going to vote for you no matter what. We're into this identity politics situation so deep that you don't have to tell them anything. I just don't understand why there's been, by the Democrats, just no attempt whatsoever to even just make up lies. Just say, we're going to talk about healthcare. We're going to talk about schools. We're going to talk about loan cancellation. We're, blah, 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 blah. Like nothing, it's not even coming up at all. It's just full on embracing of these austerity politics and policies that nobody really even wants. Even far right people, a lot of the people that support the right are not doing well economically. We're not talking about, that there's this like big faction of really well off people living great lives. Think Trump is gonna be the way. Like mostly it's really disadvantaged people who blame minorities for taking job opportunities and listen to Fox News too much. So if they've got the same policy, like why would anybody be motivated to vote? And then you hear these idiot kind of uncommitted things like, we don't want Trump, but also we're not saying vote third party, but also we're not saying vote Kamala Harris, but we're saying vote Kamala Harris. So you have to do it though. And it's like, how much heat are we all going to take at the end of this if she loses? And I don't know. Also, if we're in a dead heat situation or not, because
I think because once you realize that polls are essentially their own kind of media and advertising, it makes me sound conspiracy-ish, but who owns all of the media apparatus? Do you think they're just letting stuff slip out that isn't somehow, like, part of something? I think the strategy is to try to, like, because the tech people tend to like Kamala, and the tech people are the ones who have much more, like, their fingers in media. So, like, I think the strategy might be to make us think that Kamala is losing so bad that everyone goes, oh shit, we better get, kind of like 2020, where it's like, Biden's gonna lose so hard, and then everyone voted. It's like, actually, they did really well in 2020 compared to what it, like, should have been. So I don't know. Will that work again this time? Is that what's even happening? Or is she just actually super duper losing? Because the fact that she's pulling out the whole, hey, black people, I'll give you some weed, please vote for me. Like,
Oh, that's so psycho.
Times must be tough. I don't know.
Now, in the chat, we got a comment about how when Biden was getting elected, his whole thing was, we're gonna get the babies out of cages day one, and that's true. Like, even when he didn't have to, but because people were so anti-Trump at that time, he didn't really have to make up any lies, but he still did and didn't deliver on any of it, obviously. But that's, it's bizarre. It's bizarre behavior politically. I don't remember a time when they either side just didn't even bother to say we're gonna, and then never do any of that shit anyway. So we know, or maybe they think people caught on to that and it seems less disingenuous or something like that. But it's like, if you got the vote, you got the vote. So I don't
Right.
understand this gameplay. I really don't. Now, you said you wanted to mention about the hospital.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's
close out.
I'll try. We're only read so much of this because, like, you guys get it, and it just goes on to, like,
yeah.
It's like, hey, a really fucked up thing happened. It's like, yeah, we know. We don't necessarily need to be. This is also the Washington Post, which is funny because it's not like I'm picking. It's not like I'm picking these, like, these super obscure sources from Gaza only. The Washington Post is freaking Amazon owned. It is very much establishment media. But even they're out here, like, Israeli strike at Gaza's Al-Aqsa Hospital burns tents, killing at least 4. And you might think, Al-Aqsa Hospital? I thought they already, like, that thing's already like a pile of rubble. It's like, yeah, there's people who set up tents, like, in the rubble, it seems like. And even that is just getting bombed. It's just so clear, like, they only pick civilian targets. It's the most freaking... Alright, the site was filled with tents erected by families displaced by fighting in the enclave. They refer to Gaza as an enclave, which is... I mean, what else are you going to call it? A concentration camp? An Israeli airstrike on a hospital compound in central Gaza early Monday sent flames ripping through tents housing displaced people, killing at least 4 and injuring dozens. Videos from the scene appeared to show one man being burned alive as bystanders could do little but watch. We're not going to show those pictures. You can go find them if you want them. They're everywhere. The Israeli military said the target of the strike was a Hamas command center. Isn't it just... It's always like, no matter what, the argument you'll always hear, well, they had to kill all those like regular-ass people because Hamas was, like, buried under them somehow, and it's just been so thoroughly disproven. They don't have a series of tunnels larger than the New York City subway system. They just don't. But those claims have been made. It's like when they would say that, oh, look, Osama bin Laden is hiding in this hollowed-out mountain that's like, you remember the opening to Iron Man? They have a whole city dug out of this mountain. It turns out, no, he's just in a house in Pakistan, which makes way more sense than he has a secret mountain. I might have even used the wrong name, but you know what I'm talking about. Wait, there's Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein. Bin Laden is the one, okay. I did say the right one, bin Laden.
Yeah, you did.
The site was filled with families and tents who had fled fighting elsewhere. The majority of those injured from the overnight strike and ensuing fire, many seriously, were women and children, according to Gaza health officials. The Gaza Health Ministry said 4 people were killed, but Fahd Haddad, the head of Al-Aqsa Hospital Emergency Department, put the death toll at 5. By Monday, the tally of the injured had risen to 70, according to Ahmed Salman, director of the Civil Defense in Deir al-Balah. So, we now have, and this is related, I'm not just taking an opportunity to dunk on AOC. AOC is now tweeting this: the horrors unfolding in northern Gaza are a result of a completely unrestrained Netanyahu government, fully armed by the Biden administration, while food aid is blocked and patients are bombed in hospitals. This is a genocide of Palestinians. The U.S. must stop enabling it. Arms embargo now. If you remember a year ago, She refused to use the word genocide, and we only bring her up because she is supposed to be the most progressive. She's supposed to be pushing the hardest against this. She went to Congress specifically to cause a ruckus. She talked famously about how she had no problem being a one-term congressperson as long as she could get some stuff done, and she could get way more done going in as like a wrecking ball and bringing a ruckus. She now appears to be being groomed as the next Nancy Pelosi, which sounds ridiculous until you look back at Nancy Pelosi's history. She was considered like an AOC when she first entered Congress. Like, oh, this revolutionary... Sorry for my congestion. This revolutionary, super far-left person who she obviously did not end up being. This AOC tweet, jeez, is in response to a Kamala Harris tweet where she's like, oh, it's so terrible what's happening in Gaza. And then, of course, everyone's response is like, stop sending them bombs. You clearly have control over this. Even here, she mentions the Biden admin. It's like, well, who's the number 2 in the Biden admin?
Yeah.
Happens to be the lady currently running for president.
Right. Yeah. And you know, just like about 4 months or so ago, remember this, we're working they're working tirelessly to get a ceasefire. And we everybody knew that was a bunch of fucking bullshit lie. Like, that was not true whatsoever. Nobody believed that other than their super fans and whatever, you know, in the whole troll bot thing. But
it's just timing. We're within a month. They're trying to run the clock out on this genocide until they can get past the election. That's it. That's why now, because it's way too... A lot of people have already voted. Now she can go out and be like, oh my god, it's so terrible what this administration is doing. Like,
and again, she also must have gotten some sort of intel from her own, you know, people who project these things as statisticians and say, oh, it's going to be good for your political career to go in here and look like you are now against all of this. They won't remember what you said a few months ago because they're only going to remember that you said that it was the Biden administration and it's unrestrained and it's a genocide against Palestinians, yada, yada, yada. So she's not really helping Team Red or Blue. She's making a pretty big chess move here to go out on her own and be like, oh, I'm going rogue. I'm 100% not a CIA operative. This is not a good thing. We don't want this. So I know you don't want this. Follow me. You know, like, so it's sort of making a play or a plea at a time when there's a lot of like confusion on what's going on and what people can do, how people can be stopping things. Because don't forget also, this gets a little confusing because we enter like the whole lame duck status thing. But the administration, the Biden administration, will still be in power until January when it's officially handed over to whoever wins next. So even after November, we still have all that time in between when they are still in charge of what happens. So, you know, there's just almost never any incentive to do anything, and that's why nothing ever happens in those times. Basically, whatever president just goes out and goes surfing or whatever because nothing comes of it. And that's where we are right now. And, you know, obviously we're going to have to keep, you know, going over this and, you know, standing on the soapbox with our tambourine, being like, come on, guys, come on. Because, but that's where we are. We're a month out, or less than a month now, out from the election. Things still potentially could turn crazy one way or the other. As Jared mentioned earlier, if Kamala just suddenly came out and said, like, look, guys, I told him, I gave him the what for, and Netanyahu is going to do whatever I say now, you know, which she could if she wanted to, but that would turn the tides. So we don't know. We're still gonna watch and see what's going to happen and what's going on, but we know that you're tired of hearing it. We're tired of talking about it. We would like to, you know, focus on some other things as well, but this is what's going on, and it sucks big time. So we're gonna continue to see how this plays out, because obviously things, you know, the depravity of what Israel's doing just gets worse, and at least if more people are taking notice, it tends to put more pressure on the candidates, even though they're not exactly responding to it. So maybe something crazy happens in the next couple of weeks. But this is basically what we're going to be talking about for the next.
There's a couple people who look like, you see people suddenly starting to like think about making demands, and it's like, dude, you got to do that before you endorse somebody, and maybe when you're more than a month out.
Yeah.
And again, remember, I think this is all horseshit. I think we are given two completely groomed candidates groomed in the sense of they are entirely acceptable to our owning class. The two factions of the owning class, well, there's more than two, but to simplify, you got like tech people, industry people, basically like Facebook, oil tycoons, and they decide, they choose two acceptable candidates, and if either one was unacceptable, you simply would not be allowed to vote for them. They'd get Bernie Sanders out of there, and remember how mild Bernie Sanders was? He was unacceptable to the machine.
Right.
Nobody who's actually going to do anything will be allowed within 1,000 miles of the White House. You get your Jill Steins out there that I believe are basically like a little shiny distraction. Hey, look, oh, you're mad? Here's your one approved candidate who we know will never get anywhere, who are already getting thrown off ballots. Like, if you're in Nevada, can't vote for Jill Stein, the Democrats sued her off the ballot, like they did in various other states. Wow, election interference. That's totally a thing that only one of the two teams that are totally different and not working in collaboration to, like, make sure that nothing ever changes. What a weird thing that would happen. I don't know. Vote if you want, don't if you don't want. Maybe consider not rewarding the current administration that's doing genocide for doing so. Because, hey, maybe if Trump's in office, people will be upset by the things that happen that we don't like.
Yeah, maybe the liberals will get mad again about the stuff that they're currently supporting. So
exactly.
That's kind of where we are in this situation. So yeah, we're going to keep this conversation going, and unfortunately, and hopefully we have some more to talk about as we get a little bit closer, because things have been kind of unpredictable in the way that they're, like we were saying, they're not doing what we think they're doing. Liberals have turned and are supporting conservative, policy at this point. They're just coming out openly saying racist, ideas for people.
Black people weed, yeah.
The black people weed, like
Jesus.
very, very strange tactics coming out. So we'll keep on the story. There's pretty much none other stories going on, so we'll keep on it. But we're gonna give Jared a little bit of a break here and to catch his breath and get ready for his next gig. And so thank you guys for watching. For all of you, when I say you guys, I mean everybody. Thanks you everybody for watching. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking part in the chat and hanging out with us today. As always, you can check out our past episodes on our YouTube channel and on Rumble, our Rumble channel. Do the whole follow, supports, whatever. And we'll be with you next week. So take care, everyone, and we will be back again sometime soon with more horrible stories. Bye.
Bye.